There's a civil war in the mind of the liberal. On the one hand, you have the defense...
We're right here, dude.
I know, no, it's in your head. It's in your head.
Tell me about my brain some more,
right.
though, please.
So on the one hand, you're a defender of individual rights, and if this were the Catholic Church... Right, and minorities. If it was the Catholic Church, you'd be all on it.
Right.
But on the other hand, you're committed to multiculturalism, and Islam is a victim, and we don't want to make the Muslims feel bad.
That was Bill Maher and Dinesh D'Souza last Friday talking about Western society and radical Islam, a debate that's playing out also in the run-up to the opening of the 9/11 Memorial Museum next week. The museum under enormous pressure to remove the terms Islamist extremist and jihadism from a brief 7-minute film about the 9/11 attack. Joining us tonight, Dinesh D'Souza, the conservative commentator and creator of the upcoming film America, and Harris Zafar is the national spokesperson and director of youth outreach for Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA. And we're going to start with Mr. Zafar. Welcome to you both.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Zafar, what are your specific objections? Do you know enough about the museum, about the film, about the concerns that have been raised?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'll begin by saying that 9/11 is an integral part of the U.S. history, and we wholeheartedly agree on the need to accurately capture what happened that day, and that's what the purpose of this museum is. And even mentioning Al-Qaeda is no problem at all, because, in fact, they should be identified in their role on that awful day, awful tragedy that day. What gives Muslims, including us, pause, as well as non-Muslims, including even the museum's own interfaith advisory group, is when acts are used or labeled as Islamic, or they're referred to by Islamic Arabic terms such as jihad, because the use of those terms implies that this terrorism, the violence, and the murder are consistent with the teachings of Islam. So there's not a sufficient amount of nuance applied when these terms are used. So all we're asking for is that the 9/11 Museum use language of then-President George W. Bush, who was very clear that there was nothing Islamic about what happened on 9/11.
Well, there is a difference, obviously, in using the word Islamic and Islamist extremist. I mean, those are different phrases. And, you know, the folks at the museum say they are aware of these concerns. They've tried very hard to make sure that everybody is accommodated, but without sacrificing the historical content. I want to read a little bit of the film. It's not been released, but we have a little bit of the narration, which is done by Brian Williams. Part of it says, the program tracks Al-Qaeda's embrace of violence and the decision of its leadership to commit mass murder at the dawn of the 21st century. There are other portions, though, that do identify this as a jihad and use the words Islamist extremist. Are you okay with that phrase?
Well, I mean,
do you think it's accurate?
It's not in the way that it's being used. I've written in my new book, Demystifying Islam, Tackling the Tough Questions, I have an entire chapter dedicated to jihad. So I'm absolutely, I strongly agree that there are people who commit these atrocious acts that hide behind this name of jihad. But by claiming that this is jihad, which is not the true meaning of the word jihad, what you're doing is you're alienating those people that can help resolve this issue, which are Muslims. And I mean, I know many Americans, including yourself, Shannon, and your viewers, want to see the moderates fight the extremists. But it's very difficult for us to do that job if the faith that we cherish is being conflated with extremism. So that's why what we want to do is to explain that you can't just say that what they're doing is committing jihad, because what I'm doing on this television screen right now is jihad. It's that struggle to do good and also defend what the true teachings of Islam are. So all we want to do is give an opportunity for the true, authentic, documented teachings of Islam to defeat this hate ideology that the cowards are hiding behind.
All right, Mr. Zafar, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. I'm going to turn now to Dinesh D'Souza, conservative commentator and creator of that film that we mentioned, upcoming film America. All right, Mr. D'Souza, how do you respond to that? Is there a way to parse these words? Should the museum be more sensitive to the concerns that folks like Mr. Zafar have?
Well, I certainly think it's important not to give the idea that all Muslims commit terrorism or condone terrorism. Seems like the museum isn't doing anything like that. Now, there is a fact about our modern world, and that is while most Muslims are not terrorists, the vast majority of terrorist acts that happen these days do occur in the Muslim world or in the name of Islam. Now, the terrorists who did 9/11 said they were doing it in the name of Islam. So it becomes a little weird for us to then say, well, no, you're not. You actually have other motives. You're outlaws, or you have some other. These are very pious Muslims who did what they did in the name of jihad. Now, there are different types of jihad, but the predominant type of jihad historically has in fact been holy war. Muslims conducting, if you will, violence, very often to spread the faith. And this is in fact something that has gone back to Islam to the 7th century.
How worried are you about the issue of political correctness as we try to responsibly identify those who are behind these acts of terrorism accurately? When we see that certain manuals and government publications are scrubbed of certain words, I mean, can we go after things and target the right people if we're afraid of using certain words?
So try to imagine these events of 9/11 if you can't use the word terrorism, which of course the Obama administration has backed away from. You can't use the word Islam or Muslim, and you can't use the word jihad. You're rendered almost mute, and you have to now make up a new vocabulary. So I think what's going on here is that the most illiberal force in the world, which is radical Islam, is now being protected in the name of liberalism. These interfaith alliances have all gotten together, and they're essentially demanding a certain kind of control over the vocabulary and the understanding of events. And I don't think that should be conceded to them, because what they're really objecting is not that the 9/11 guys are getting things wrong. They're actually objecting to what they're getting right.
All right. Mr. D'Souza, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.